We've already mentioned the importance in music of patterns in sound. Repetition is the simplest kind of pattern, but in itself it becomes boring very quickly. But if we combine repetition with transposition, things improve. Here's a simple example. This is called a sequence. The pattern is repeated, but going up or down a scale. There's a little bit of variety here since the major and minor scales aren't entirely made up of equal intervals. For example, on the second beat, the interval between the outer voices is a minor third instead of a major third. A sequence is a simple way to develop an idea, and indeed, it's often to be found in the development section of sonata forms. But our very first example was pretty simplistic, and if we do it in more than two parts, it very easily leads to parallels like this. We could vary the part writing a bit like this to improve it. There are still parallels here between the bass on the beat and the soprano on the second half of each beat, but they're less obvious. Much better, however, is to simply alternate between two chords, or even two positions of the same chord. Here, the alternation of neighbor notes and chord tones in the top voice, and the movement between two positions in the inner voice, makes the parallels much less audible. Even better is this example, where we alternate root positions and first inversions on the same bass note. This is sometimes called the 5-6 sequence, since those are the notes that change above the bass line. Notice that here, each chord on the weak beat is an inverted chord with its root a fifth away from the next harmony. And in fact, we could do this with root position chords as well. Here there's even more feeling of real harmonic movement. We could carry this idea still further with a sequence based entirely on the circle of fifths. A circle of fifths, often with somewhat more florid ornamentation, is probably the most common sequential pattern in tonal music. Here's a more elaborate example. Another common sequence repeats a two-chord pattern in descending thirds. The result can be a stepwise bass or a stepwise soprano. Here's the version with the stepwise bass. And here's the version where the soprano is stepwise. In our next lesson, we'll look at some more sophisticated kinds of sequences.